His son stood in front of the entire clan, waiting to be punished. And every man watching knew the Jarl had only two choices: protect his son, or protect his people. Jarl Eirik Stonehands looked at the boy he had raised with his own hands, and chose the clan. The punishment was carried out before sunset. The alliance was saved. 300 people survived the winter because of it, and Eirik spent the rest of his life wishing he had chosen differently. His name was Jarl Eirik Stonehands, a man who had built everything with those hands: his settlement, his reputation, his clan, and his son, Leif, 19 years old, tall like his father, stubborn like his father, with his mother's eyes and his father's silence. The kind of young man who didn't speak often, but when he did, people listened. Eirik had watched his son grow the way a man watches something he built from nothing become something real, with quiet pride, the kind that doesn't announce itself, the kind that sits in the chest like a steady fire. The trouble started the way trouble always starts, not with a decision, with a mistake. Leif had been given responsibility for a trade negotiation with a neighboring clan. His first real task, his father's way of saying, "I trust you. Show me who you are." What happened during that negotiation, nobody fully agreed on. Leif said words were exchanged, that the other clan's representative had spoken with disrespect, that he had responded the way any man with dignity would respond. The other clan said something different. They said Leif had threatened their representative, had drawn a blade in a room where blades were not supposed to be drawn, had walked away from the table without agreement, leaving the negotiation in ruins. The consequences arrived 3 days later. The neighboring clan's Jarl sent a formal message. The trade agreement was void. The alliance, which had taken Eirik 4 years to build, was suspended pending what they called appropriate accountability. 2 words: appropriate accountability. Eirik read them and understood immediately what they meant. They meant Leif. They wanted Leif held responsible publicly, removed from any position of authority, formally disciplined in a way that would be visible to every clan in the territory. Eirik called no council that night. He didn't need one. He already knew what every voice in the council would say. The alliance was too important. The trade routes it protected fed 300 people through the winter. Without it, people would go hungry. Some would not survive the cold season. He called Leif instead, just the two of them, in the same room where Eirik had taught his son to read maps, where they had sat through 100 evenings planning 100 things together. Leif came in and sat down. He didn't speak first. He waited, because he already knew. Sons always know before fathers say it. Eirik looked at him for a long moment, then told him what was required. Leif listened without interrupting, without changing his expression. When Eirik finished, a long silence settled between them. Then Leif asked one question: "Do you believe them over me?" Eirik didn't answer immediately, not because he didn't have an answer, because the answer was complicated in a way that a simple yes or no couldn't carry. He believed his son. He believed Leif's account of what happened. He believed the other clan had provoked the situation deliberately, but belief was not the same as being able to act on it. Not when 300 people's survival was on the other side of the decision. "It doesn't matter what I believe," Eirik said finally. "It matters what must be done." Leif looked at his father. For a moment, something shifted in his expression. Not anger, something quieter. The specific look of a person who has just understood something about the world that they cannot understand. "Then do it," he said quietly, and stood, and walked out. The public discipline happened 2 days later. Formal, visible, exactly what the neighboring clan had demanded. Leif stood through it without flinching, without looking at his father, without giving anyone watching the satisfaction of seeing him break. Eirik watched from the edge of the crowd, because a Jarl had to be present for such things. He stood there, and felt something leave him that he would spend the rest of his life trying to name. The alliance was restored. The trade routes reopened. 300 people had food through the winter. Everything Eirik had sacrificed his son's dignity to protect remained protected from the outside. The decision had worked. But Leif left the settlement 4 months later. No dramatic farewell. No argument. Just a morning where his things were gone and he wasn't there. A short message left on the table in the room where they used to plan things together. 3 lines. I understand why you did it. That doesn't make it easier to stay. I hope the clan is worth it. Eirik read it once, folded it, put it in the inside pocket of his cloak, and carried it there for the rest of his life. He heard about Leif occasionally over the years. He had joined another clan further north, was making a name for himself, was leading men of his own eventually, living a life that by every measure was a good one, which should have been comforting. It wasn't, because there is a specific kind of pain that has nothing to do with someone suffering. It comes from knowing someone is living well, completely without you, that the space you occupied in their life has been filled by other things, other people, other mornings, other maps spread across other tables and other rooms. Eirik never sent word, not because he didn't want to, because he didn't know what to say that would be worth saying. Sorry felt insufficient. Explanation felt like excuse. And silence, at least, was honest. He led the clan for 11 more years. Well, consistently, without major crisis. The alliance held. The trade routes stayed open. The 300 people who had needed protecting were protected. Every year, every winter, every season, and every year. On the morning of the day Leif had left, Eirik sat alone in that room, with the folded message in his hand, and stayed there until the light changed. He had made the right decision. He still believed that, not because it felt right, but because the evidence of its rightness was visible every winter in the faces of people who survived because of it. But right decisions and painless decisions are not the same thing. And a man can spend his whole life doing what must be done, and still carry what it cost him, quietly, permanently, without resolution, because some things don't get resolved. They just get carried, and the weight of them becomes so familiar that after a while, you stop noticing it's there, until a morning comes, when something small reminds you, and you feel it again, exactly as heavy as the day you first picked it up. He made the right decision, and he regretted it. Every day, for the rest of his life. Both things were true. Both things remained true, and neither one canceled the other out. What would you have done if you were Eirik? Would you have chosen the clan, or would you have found another way? And if you were Leif, could you have stayed? Tell us in the comments. New stories every week. Subscribe to Beneath the Surface Stories, because it's never just about the battle. It's about what happens beneath the surface.